Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage Fifth Annual Conference and Service Award ceremony. My name is Ruth D. Hunt, charter member of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. I bring you greetings from all of our members. First, we'd like to say a special thank you to the conference sponsors, all of our volunteers and donors for helping to make this night and following conference possible. We especially want to thank you for joining us as we give book awards and as we honor the service and leadership of community leaders who help us tell a complete story of our enslaved ancestors. Now, I would like to introduce you to our mistress of ceremony tonight, Janice Gilliard. Janice is a chartered member of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage and board member. Janice.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being so patient with us. My name is Janice Gilliard, and tonight we are gathering to honor members of our community and to give book awards to literature that draws attention to the lives of enslaved and free people. We are also here to hear from our keynote speaker about the theme of this year's conference, the economic impact of slavery. Tonight is the kickoff to our fifth annual Learning Community and Awards Banquet. We hope tonight's event will bring honor to the memory of our enslaved and freed ancestors and bring encouragement to descendants who are just starting their journey to finding their ancestors and to others who are continuing their search. Next, we will hear a performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing by G. Preston Wilson, Assistant Professor of Music at Rider University, and Simone Sparks, a BM in Vocal Performance from the University of Missouri and candidate for an MFA in Musical Theater from the University of Missouri.
Good evening, members of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage and guests. My name is Dr. Preston Wilson, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to be asked to perform my arrangement of Lift Every Voice and Sing, often referred to as the Negro or the Black National Anthem. Although it was written in 1900, it still captures the solemn yet hopeful appeal for the liberty of Black Americans today. I am so very saddened that I'm unable to be with you in person tonight, but I hope you will accept and enjoy this virtual performance from myself and my good friend and colleague, Simone Sparks. This performance was done in honor of the reopening of the George Washington Carver School at America's National Churchill Museum on the campus of Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri. Lastly, a hearty congratulations to all of the winners tonight, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, oh, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, oh God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy land. May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Good evening, sons and daughters of the United States Middle Passage. What an amazing, amazing rendition of our Negro spiritual. Want to invite everyone to just take a deep breath. I know that our planners are getting everything together for us, but it is important that we remember to breathe and know that we are in this together. I invite you to join me now in prayer. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. God, source of all hope and love, hear our prayers as we acknowledge, honor, and learn from our ancestors. May the road they walked in pursuit of peace and joy in you mirror for us the same peace and joy we long for. May we learn from their wisdom, better understand the challenges of their time, and appreciate the life they have given us. May we experience their presence as a communion of your everlasting love. May your goodness and love be present amongst us today. Come, bless our gathering with unity, hope, and vision. Lord, we pray for unity. Build in us all a deep respect for one another so that your people may be one. Lord, we pray for hope. Come stir your hope within our hearts and renew our faith. Lord, we pray for vision. May your vision fill our lives as we seek to reveal your love. We thank you that you promise to be with us always. Thank you that your presence is with us right now. Today we give you our hearts, our minds, and our lives. Come speak to us your words of life into our beings. We pray that you would deepen our comprehension, broaden our thinking, and transform our understanding of the role that our ancestors played in our lives. For you are our wise counselor, our perfect teacher, and our faithful friend. We give thanks for all who are being honored tonight and those who have brought us together. Continue to bless the work of their hands. Bless the food that it may nourish our bodies. We remember those who don't have food to eat. For all of these blessings, we give thanks and say, Amen and Ashe.
Good evening and welcome to everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of our presenters and our speakers tonight. I want to also thank our sponsors and our many donors for their support. I also want to thank you, the attendees, for choosing to spend this time with us. And again, we apologize for the delay. But most of all, I want to thank the members of our organization because it is with all of their research and their resources that we are able to have this conference today. I want to thank them for paying their dues because we use that money to put on this conference. It is a free conference at no charge except for food if you wanted to eat it. So we thank the members. We also want to say, that we thank everybody for being here, of course. And I want to say I once saw an estimate that there were 10 million people who were enslaved in this country. Starting from the colonial period to where we are today, until 1865. I'm sorry. Here we have a specific. We have to be very specific with the time because it's still in our Constitution, believe it or not. It still condones slavery today. If you look at it, the 13th Amendment to our Constitution still has slavery in it. This is something that I hope one day we will get erased from our Constitution. But we are very specific. This organization focuses on people who were enslaved before the end of slavery in 1865. But tonight we're going to focus on the resilience and the happiness brought forth by our love for our ancestors. We will focus on uplifting them and remembering the good times, remembering the strength and the happiness that they have brought so many people, but never forgetting the horrors and the extreme barbarity of United States chattel slavery. We invite you tonight and tomorrow to just join us, and especially tomorrow again, we have our tomorrow's learning center starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we hope that you will be there. Janice?
Thank you, Dr. Evelyn McDowell. And now at this time, we would like to move to our dinner portion of our event tonight. And we hope that you will take a break and have dinner. In the meantime, we have a short video that you can watch. Go grab a bite to eat and rejoin us in 30 minutes to hear from our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Hello, I am Judge Anita Laster Mays of the Ohio 8th District Court of Appeals, and I'm the proud descendant of Riata Ada McKeag Vassar, And why does it matter to me to know who she is or to know that she's my ancestor? And it's because she was a slave in Pleasant Hill, Alabama, born around 1846. And I know that her life was not easy, that she had many trials, tribulations, manipulations, and hurt. However, she survived and she persevered. And in doing that, she allowed me to be here. And I am so elated to stand tall and to call her name, Rita Ada McCaig Vassar, my great-great-grandmother.
Knowing that my ancestor, Miles Lassiter, who was born enslaved in 1777 in what is now Randolph County, North Carolina, became a free man, a landowner, a farmer, and a Quaker before he died in 1850, gives me both roots and shoulders to stand on, which is why I sought to honor his name through my membership in the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. Thus, his name will be honored there for generations to come, and his legacy can shine not just for my family, but for the world.
My honored ancestor's name is Lucinda Bynum, and I am so proud to be a descendant of her and all my enslaved ancestors because, you know, what they did in surviving the horrors of slavery, they did that so that I could be alive. So I just want to honor them and tell their stories to make sure that they're never forgotten. And I mean, who are we as people if we don't know who came before us? So for me personally, knowing that I came from such strength just makes me feel so much better as a person. It just makes me feel like I can do anything. And I'm just really proud, and also to know that every time I look in the mirror, I'm just reminded that I come from some of the strongest people that ever walked this planet. It just makes me feel really grateful. So I'm a very, very proud descendant.
My name is Bernice Alexander Bennett, and my ancestor is Andrew Kemp. Andrew is my great-great-grandfather, and he was born around 1830 in Edgefield, South Carolina. His parents were Sam and Patience, and they were all enslaved by Wiley Kemp. I learned about this enslavement when I began to trace my grandmother's family history. I joined the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage to honor my ancestor Andrew Kemp. He, along with others, were enslaved in this community, but he was strong and he survived. I found my ancestor as a juror in 1878. He was even a part of the militia in 1868. But to become a part of the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage is definitely a way that I have chosen to honor his existence and to recognize the importance of a lineage society.
Hi everyone, my name is Pat McDowell and I'm here to talk about my third great-grandmother and honored ancestor, Patsy Anderson. I was able to find her in two places initially. One was on a will from her owner, Anderson, where she was listed as property worth $350. I was able to go back after discovering that a little bit back further, found her on the 1850 Mississippi slave schedule, where she's listed as a female about 40 years of age. The fact that I was able to find her at all allowed me to give her a name, give her the honor, give her the respect that she deserves as being someone who built this country. And I know where I came from, and just knowing that she endured, survived all these horrendous things through slavery, being enslaved, allowed me to be where I am today. And I will be forever grateful for her and all of the ancestors who've paved the way for me to be who I am today.
I used to think about slavery as something that was so negative, which it was, so degrading, hopeless. You know, in schools, they always would teach us you was a slave. But I just came into some information about my distant grandfather, Jack Staten, who was a slave, but he was a man. He stood up for what he believed in. People loved him. People respected him. And because we don't get into the details of this physical Holocaust, we don't understand and we can't grasp the strength that we endured for so many years. I mean, we just a strong people, man. To be respected like this man was as a slave, to be well loved as this man as a slave, to stand up for principles despite his situation and people respected him, that speaks volumes of the reason why we're here today, spending $2 trillion a year. That's amazing. We done come a long way, and we ain't done yet. And it's because of men like Jack Staten. We stand on his shoulders, and we got a long way to go. We have some hurdles that's been placed in front of us, but we had Jack Staten. We had a man who endured. We can endure.
My name is Ruth Hunt, and I am a charter member of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. It is an honor to be a member that allows me to shine a light on my enslaved ancestor, Richard Lewis Clark, and his wife, my great-great-grandmother, Elizabeth Lizzie Selden. By me belonging to Sons and Daughters, it allows me to examine the road that they took to make a path for their descendants to follow, to be resilient during a time of terror and mistreatment. I want to say their names loud and shine the light on them, for them thinking enough of not only of themselves, but thinking enough of their descendants who would follow, that my great-grandfather bought land after the Civil War to put his family on in this community of Clarksville in Glade Springs, Virginia. I'm honored. Thank you, Sons and Daughters, for creating the space to unfold their lives and to speak with honor and joy about their contributions to the building of this country. Thank you for having me.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the this year's awards dinner for the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage. And today we have an outstanding keynote speaker ready to speak to us today, Ms. Michelle Evans Oliver. Now, I'm sure you guys have read the biography already. It's on page 12 of the program. In case you didn't know, make sure you go there and read it. And what you'll see there is that she's done lots of different things. She's winning awards. She's working with TV. She's parts of, she works with genealogical and professional organizations. She's volunteering. So she's doing all that stuff. So I can go on and on about that. And if you read that program, you'll see that. But today, what she's going to do for us is she's going to talk about something that we all can relate to. And her talk, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, is called The Rise and Fall of Slave Insurance and the Effects on African Americans Today. So think about that for a second. You know, we all have those enslaved ancestors. Think of your honored ancestors and all the other enslaved people in our families. And mine, Patsy Anderson, just like yours, more than likely was insured for the loss of property. And that's just like, buying insurance for houses and cars and personal items, jewelry, and that kind of thing. But the other part of that title also is the effect on African Americans today. So that means it's still affecting us. So I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure you guys can't wait to hear it. So would you please join me in welcoming to the podium Ms. Michelle Evans Oliver and her talk, The Rise and Fall of Slave Insurance and the Effects on African Americans Today.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Thank you for having me here. I have my tech guy. I brought him all the way from Richmond, Virginia. No, I'm just kidding. He's helping me with this presentation as well. While he's helping me, I want to give some thank yous. So I came up today on the Amtrak, and I love the Amtrak train because you can do anything. You can sleep, you can watch movies, you can watch mindless TV. You also can watch people. And so I was able to watch a few people and get myself together to come here today. I was also able to surf the internet. And today, while I was searching the internet, I was able to watch Tony Carey's video. She's going to be doing something today, as well as I was on Facebook. And on Facebook, there's a Facebook group called, I can't remember the name of the group, but Alexis Thornton Crump, I told her that I was going to mention her name today, was just accepted into the society. And so she put it on Facebook to say, I was just accepted into the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage, and everybody was giving her a hip hip hooray. So I wanted to give her a shout out today on that. And then there were a lot of people who said, oh, I never heard of that organization. So there were some plugs about today's presentation. And so you will probably be getting more applications. Of course, I want to thank the Sons and Daughters of the Middle Passage for having me here today. And I would be remiss to not thank my Asala mother, Regina Vaughn. She is here with me and she is an awards recipient. We are always on the phone talking either about genealogy, history. It's like we're 15 years old because we're on the phone for like 2 or 3 hours. And then we look and say, oh, we got to go and do some work. So thank you, Regina, for having me here today and pushing my name out there. So I wanted to also, I thought about what this presentation and what this conference was going to be about. And when I got the call from Dr. Evelyn McDowell, and I got the call from Regina, I was like, what am I going to talk about? And then they told me what the topic was about. And I said, oh, this is going to be good. So because I'm a financial advisor by trade, I thought I can talk about the wealth gap. I can have 25 to 50 graphs in it. We can have some discussion about stocks and bonds. And then I said, yeah, well, then I cut it down. I said, maybe 20 graphs and maybe 10 case studies. And so without further ado, let me get started so that we can, talk a little bit more about the wealth gap. So African Americans, and I'm just kidding. Well, you should have seen your faces out there. Were like, what is she doing? Just joking. No, I'm not going to talk about that per se. I am going to talk about, because I'm a financial advisor, I'm deemed under FINRA and the SEC to not talk about certain things. So you won't be hearing me talk about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, puts, calls, alphas, betas, just anything. You won't be hearing me talk about 401k plans, all right? Cryptocurrency. See, yeah, you won't hear me talk about cryptocurrency. I won't be talking about what's the other one, Bitcoin. So yeah, none of that. But I will be talking about the connection between American slavery and the effects on today's society, as well as the history of insurance and how it evolved in the 1800s. What is slave insurance and who sold it and why? We'll meet some people today along the way and how we can turn lemons into lemonade with information given with free takeaways. So, let me get myself my presentation screen here. All right. So as a financial advisor, when I sit down with a client, they ask me questions like, how much is it going to be for me to retire? How much do I have to save? They ask me questions like, what should I do in order for my son and daughter to go to school? And how much should I put away every month? And with that information, I can't just give specific information about one thing. I have to analyze their full financial portfolio. So when I'm looking at the financial impacts of slavery, one has to look at the total picture first and then assess in smaller increments. So with that being said, we have to look at Blacks or African Americans in general when it comes to the disparities. So a recent study shows that Black people, African Americans, lag significantly behind white people in key areas such as economic status, health, education, social justice, and civic engagement. We as African Americans are 73.9% behind the attainment stated by 2022 Black-White Equity Index. Now, for instance, that equity index, noted that a median household income for Black people is about $44,000, which is 37% less than that of white people. White folks' average income is $70,000. The data indicates that Black people are also less likely to benefit from home ownership, which has fueled generational wealth among Americans as we know it today. A Northwestern study says that for every penny a Black person has, a white person has $1. So let me break that down for you nicely. Putting it in dollars and cents, for every 500 cents or $5 that we as African Americans have in our African American community, the white community has $500. And for all of you who save money in those big water jugs, let's say you have about 10,000 pennies, which is $100. So the white community has $10,000, just to put it in perspective. So with that being said, I have talked about the whole picture now. Now I'm going to talk about my passion, and my passion is life insurance. Even though I'm a financial advisor and I do everything, my passion is life insurance, and I love talking about it. And so I'm going to give you a high level, not a lot of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but a high level information about how life insurance started. So in 100 BC, the origin and the concept of life insurance started as we know it, and they can trace it back to the Roman Empire, Roman military leader. He created a burial club amongst his troops so that in the event that there is an unexpected death of a club member, other members would pay for their funeral expenses. The earliest known life insurance policy was made in the Royal Exchange of London in 1583. A man by the name of Richard Martin insured a William Gibbons, paying 13 merchants £30 for $400 if the insured died within 1 year. Now, the insured did die, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, so I'll keep moving on. In 1688, if you guys haven't heard of the Lloyds of London, Edward Lloyd's Coffee Shop, a small shop in London, was a popular coffee shop for merchants, sailors, owners of ships, captains, and it was a to-go place for shipping news, and eventually became the place where we got marine insurance. So it was there that the modern concept of the insurance companies came into being. In 1769, it's not on here, a group of professional underwriters broke off to establish the new Lloyd's Coffee House, which would eventually grow up into the Lloyd's of London. Well, we can talk about our Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. So in 1752, Benjamin Franklin and his fellow firefighters founded the Philadelphia Contribution Ship. It actually is still in existence today, and it's the nation's oldest successful property and casualty insurance company. The company formed a mutual insurance company, and it came out of the amicable contributorship in London. And in 1759, the Presbyterian Synod of Philadelphia sponsored the first life insurance corporation of America for the benefit of Presbyterian ministers and their dependents. Episcopalian ministers followed behind about a decade later. The first insurance company in the American colonies was formed before this in Charleston, South Carolina in 1735, but it offered only fire insurance at first. It didn't add life insurance until 1760. And let's move on to 1830s when the mutualization of life insurance companies started. Women were allowed to purchase life insurance at that point. And there was a cultural shift away from preachers who demonized life insurance as gambling. And it created a boom period for life insurance companies. All right, you bored yet? So 1830s to 1865, the United States and life insurance. All right. Well, as you know, as you can hear, life insurance didn't start off in the United States. It actually started in the 1800s in the United States with slave insurance. Early on, slaves were used as property and was added as add-ons to insurance for mariners insurance in case the property or cargo was lost at sea. The most well-documented known life insurance case is the Zong massacre. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this because you guys are very smart. It occurred in November of 1781. It goes a little something like this. The Zong slave ship was headed towards Jamaica, and since there was human chattel, and it was a valuable commodity at the time, many captains took more slaves than they were supposed to on their ships. So the Zong captain did the same, and he overloaded his ship with the enslaved, and by November, many of them began to die of disease and malnutrition. So he did what he thought was best, and he started to throw enslaved overboard. Because, you can throw cargo overboard because it was a law. You can throw it overboard to save the people who were on the ship. And by the time they got to Jamaica, 132 of the enslaved persons had been murdered. When the ship returned to England, the owners, not the captain, but there was an owner of the ship too, the owners wished to be compensated the full value of each of the enslaved Africans that were lost. But an abolitionist found out about it, and the case went to court. The first jury ruled in favor of the ship owners and said that they could be paid, since it was permissible to kill animals for the safety of the ship. And they decided to kill the enslaved, so it was about the same, they said. But the insurance company appealed, and the case was retried. And this time, the court decided that the Africans on board the ship were people. And so the insurance company wasn't able to pay the owners. Funny story, huh? Not really. All right, so now we have the evolution of slavery in the United States. So in 1830, slave insurance was just getting started. It started at the Baltimore Life Insurance Company, and they had a monopoly for about 10 years. And they would write about a handful of slave insurance, and up until about the 1840s. But the Baltimore Life Insurance Company was very conservative about issuing their life insurance policies initially, because there were no more tables. There were, they thought that the slaves would be decreasing in value and would be worth more dead than alive. And they thought that the owners, overseers, renters, or new buyers would mistreat the slaves and cause untimely death. Really? So by the 1840s, slave insurance caught on, and many companies sprung up just to sell slave life insurance policies. It was very lucrative. Many of these companies do not exist today and did not exist after the Civil War. And by the 1850s, companies were starting to crop up in the southern states. The greed was real. Marketing of life insurance was all over the United States, and the thoughts of purchasing it for the whites. Remember, the preacher said, oh, it was a demonized system. When they found out that slave life insurance was lucrative, the preachers and the white folks said, it's not that bad after all. So, ads were placed in newspapers from agents to solicit owners and bondsmen to get life insurance. This is an ad from the Baltimore Life Insurance Company, and it reads, this old established institution proposed to insure lives of slaves for 1 or more years, as long as 7 years if desired. This company recommended to the public as being entirely safe, and its rates are as low as in safety to the insured, and the company will justify. Premiums are payable annually, and the policies renewed without another examination of the slaves. Policies discontinued at any time after the first year, if desired, and all losses promptly adjusted. The office at this Powhatan House is first door to the right after entering the passage on to the south end. So how did this slave life insurance work? Okay. There are a few ways. So by me being in the life insurance industry since, I don't know, the early 90s, I know I was born like yesterday, but it was the early 90s. I've been in the insurance industry. I have an intimate knowledge about life insurance. And this slave life insurance actually mimics the way life insurance is sold today. It's very interesting to see how the way the rules and laws and how we do use rate cards, which is a little bit different because we use computers, but how the rate cards were being used back then to how it evolved into life insurance today. And the companies were able to learn the algorithms, mortality tables, marketing from this era to make what their companies are. So life insurance today is based on age, whether you're male or female, sometimes occupation, and your health. But slave life insurance was based on how much the enslaved was worth, the health of the enslaved, the location of where he or she was located, and always the occupation. That evolved into singular and group life insurance. So in the 1800s, the rise of labor costs and the decline of the tobacco was real too, because the tobacco industry depleted all of the nutrients out of the land in Virginia. And so everybody started to go into the white farmers had basically depleted everything in the soil, And one way owners would acquire life insurance is to send their slaves down south by renting or selling them. And when their slaves would travel to the deep south, the person who was renting us would take out a life insurance policy just in case something happened during that travel. And once the person or the enslaved got to the destination, that renter would take out a life insurance policy just in case something happened while they were down in the deep south. Or they would take out the life insurance policy if they started to own them. The policies would be paid for them and their slaves. So we're talking double profit now. So you have the owner who used to own or is renting have a life insurance policy, and also the person who's renting having a life insurance policy as well. They say, actually, I'm going off topic, that the insurance company said you only can insure the slave once, and they don't want any other companies. Well, how would they know? So that's another topic for another day. The second way that the enslaved would be hired out into the urban areas. So like in the 1850s, there was a lot of urbanization. So I always take, because I'm from Richmond, Virginia, the Tredegar Iron Works, a lot of you may know about it, was a heavy urbanized enslaved population there working. So a lot of those Tredegar Iron Works enslaved, they had life insurance policies on them. And there are some owners that would not be in the innermost cities, and they would be in the outskirts of the cities. So they would rent out or sell their enslaved to mining companies, the railroad companies, construction companies, and steamboat construction. So in the 1840s, insurance of miners was commonplace too. Masters or owners would use us and life insurance and said that they were protecting the long-term value of a slave. And lastly, even though there were not a lot of manumissions going on in life insurance, there were some where an owner would take out a life insurance policy on his enslaved that he was going to free. And if he didn't get the money, if something would have happened to the enslaved before the enslaved would have paid him, he passed away, or he ran away, or he hurt himself, because that's another way that they could get paid, he would get paid. So they were making sure that they received their money. Oh, I went back. All right. So Baltimore Life Insurance Company, again, this is what we call a rate sheet. And so the Baltimore Life Insurance Company was the first company that allowed owners to take out individual life insurance policies outside of marine or mariner's insurance. In the early days, the master owner would or could write into the insurance company and ask an agent questions about their enslaved. The thing is that, as I stated earlier, there were no mortality tables, and they had to give roundabout ages. So you know how that went. So the younger you are, the less insurance will cost. So because the owner didn't know how much the enslaved was, they could say that they had a enslaved woman who was 15 and she could have been 22. Everything was a guessing game. Also, our rates were higher than the white person's rate. So they would rate $1 per 100 for a white person, while the slave would to reduce the company's risk, they would
Oh my God.
to reduce All right, we're back. To reduce the company's risk, the underwriter, they would underwrite the slave for only 2/3 to 3/4 of the actual value, no more than 7 years, with regular re-examinations of the market conditions and the enslaved itself. One other thing I failed to mention is that, of course, there were some good white folks out there that would purchase life insurance on slaves that would buy from a slave trader in case a slave would go to a person who was in the community and they say, "Hey, can you buy my my wife, because they're about to sell her down to the deep south." And then there would be some white people who would purchase the enslaved person, but they would get a life insurance policy on to make sure that they would get their money back. Right? It's gonna get better, y'all. Trust me. Sure. So what would happen if the slave was killed? How? Well, if the life insurance policy was on, oh, I'm gonna get to that. Oh, I have it in here. Sure. So, and here we are. We have, so Jake loses every time. So this is Reverend Jake, and this is my great-great-grandfather. He was enslaved at Amphill Plantation in Cumberland County, Virginia. I had to give a shout out to him. His name is Jacob Randolph, but I actually used the names of the people, but all the information is incorrect. I am just making up a case study for you. So we have Blacksmith Jake, age 28. His owner is, let's say, Randolph, and Ripmaster Woodson. And we have an enslaved life insurance policy. So let's just say that Jake, age 28, was purchased by Randolph for $500. Owner Randolph's rental value of Jake is $1,200. So they can say whatever they want to as far as the rental value. And the prices would go up when things started when there was a rise in the economy, roughly between the 1840s to the 1850s, prices were going up for the enslaved. So owner Randolph didn't have much use for him at this time, so he wanted to rent him out to make some money. And so he rented out Blacksmith Jake to Master Woodson for $700. The enslaved life insurance policy is 2/3 value of the individual. So remember, owner Randolph said that Jake was worth $1,200. 2/3 of $1,200 is $792. So he would take out a life insurance policy for $792. The cost of insurance policy for a 28-year-old 1-year term policy was $12.11 per year. And you times $12. So I looked at a rate table and saw that it was $1.53, all depending on the insurance company, but we're just using this as an example. So if Jake dies and the owner Randolph purchased the life insurance policy, he would profit $979.89. So how did I get that? So remember, he took out the life insurance policy for $792. He received $700 from Woodson, minus that $500 that he purchased from Jake, as well as the $12.11 that he used for the life insurance policy, and that brings you to $979.89. Who wins? Owner Randolph. So now we have Rentmaster Woodson. Just say he took out a life insurance policy on Blacksmith Jake and the value of Jake. So $700 he paid, $500, the value of Jake, $700 plus $500 is $1,200. So then something happens to Jake. So you take the $792 minus the $500, equals 292, and I'm not going to give you the numbers because you start with your minds will start glossing over. Long story short, owner Woodson would get $272.89. So either way, Rentmaster Woodson profits off of Jake's death by the increase of metals. Let's just say he got Rentmaster Woodson used him to do some blacksmithing, and he made $300. He would win by $579. So Woodson wins. So Randolph, who owns the slave, made $979. Rentmaster Woodson would make $579. And so Woodson and Randolph win, and Jake doesn't win because his family never gets the life insurance proceeds. But in actuality, Jake wins because Jake was Reverend Jake Randolph, but that's a whole nother story. But forward, I'm using real numbers now. So in actuality, $979 in 1850 is worth $36,319 today. And Woodson's greed would be $579 in 1850, and he would receive $21,493.77 today. So let's just say that they had 10 enslaved individuals that this happened to, because you can get life insurance and get paid by either death, dismemberment, or runaway. And so if any of these things happen, I'm giving just a simple 10, just 10, then you're talking $3,631,930, or $2,149,000. This is just extra money by getting a life insurance policy. So I bring up Tredegar Iron Works again because this is how it looked back in the 1850s in Richmond, Virginia. The policy would be for slaves if they were lost, stolen, or died, if they ran away. And there were urban slaveholders who would own artisans and servants and slaveholders, and there were slaveholders that would take out policies even if they were laborers. So even some of the farm hands would have life insurance policies. There were so many enslaved policies, and there were so many enslaved policies that no one really knew about who had what, and it was just a big debacle. I would say it kind of reminds me of the mortgage industry in 2005, 2006, when everybody could get mortgages and no one had the real income in order to get the mortgages. And so it rose all the way up and then it fell. This is what happened to the slave life insurance. So one other thing I wanted to say is that what happened is that, they say that slavery was in the South. And okay. But everybody in the United States had their hand in some type of profit with slavery. And so even when they had profits, the slave owners would own slaves. Companies in the North were profiting off of this. Companies like New York Life, Hartford, Aetna, these are all the companies that you know of today that were in the game back in the day. So let's talk about Mary. So, doing research, I've been doing research on this for a few years. And what I found is that it's not a lot of research about enslaved life insurance. And there are a lot of white historians that talk about it, but there's not a lot of individuals who talk about the people, the enslaved who were inside of these policies. And so my job is to talk about not the owner of the policy, but the enslaved of the policy. So I say real policies, real people. So being born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, I had the liberty to go to the Library of Virginia all the time. I actually used to work near it and would go past it, and then I would beat myself over the head and say, Michelle, you need to stop. So in doing research, I came across this policy here, and it was a Saturday, and I was meeting someone to talk about the ancestors at the Berkeley Plantation in Charles City, Virginia. Quiver's ancestors, because I want to say their names. And so, so I was meeting the Quiver's descendants, but I had about an hour. And I have to tell the story because I love libraries, and going into the Library of Virginia, I love the smell of books. I love the smell of the library. I always think I'm stealing when I leave out with books. But I walked in, and the one thing about the Library of Virginia is they had these little librarians, but they have so much knowledge. So I walk in, I'm like, hey, I'm looking for slave life insurance policies. She kind of looked at me off to the side. I thought she was, kind of being funny. And she said, well, what's the name? Do you know a name of the life insurance company? And I said, sure. So I give her the name, and she's doing all of this, just telling me, just typing stuff in. And she says, well, there's some back in that room in the back. You can go take this number, go in the back room in the back. Well, I'm a financial advisor, and I don't go to the library often. So I'm like, what room in the back? What are you talking about? And so I had never been in this room. So I go into the back of the room. I see two older white gentlemen. They have these big tubs of just information. And I hand this woman a number. She tells me, okay, it's going to take about 10 minutes. We have to go into the repository. I don't know. And she says, come back in 10 minutes, put your purse in a locker, and we'll have your information. And I said, okay, no problem. I'm still scratching my head. I go back, I do a little bit more research. I come back in 10 minutes. I put my purse in the locker. I lock it, get the key. She says, you only can have, of course, you all probably know this, a pencil, piece of paper, and what did she say? Oh, your phone to take a picture. And so she brings out a large folder. And when I open it up, I see this life insurance policy. Didn't think that I was going to see it, touch it, hold it. So my breath was taken away. And so I'm sitting down, I'm standing up. I'm sitting down, I'm standing up. I'm walking around. So you probably would have thought I was just some crazy person. I pick it up, I touch it. And so finally I was able to sit down and take a picture because I wanted to show that these individuals are real. These ancestors are real, and they want to have their names being talked about. So let's meet Mary. So Mary she's about 22 years old. She was born in 1833 or so. Because remember, you can say you're younger and pay less. Hey Mary, how you doing? So to tell Mary's age, I was able to use the amount of the policy divided by the cost. So we're not going to go into that because I did some calculations. But Mary's about 22 years old. She's born in the 1833-ish. This policy was written in Richmond, Virginia. So Mary worked somewhere in the city. If you can see at the bottom, it says Richmond Inquirer Job Office. I did a little bit of research about that. And the Richmond Inquirer was a newspaper. I need to do more research on that one to see what's going on with that job office. But Mary's occupation probably was of high value So she could have been a seamstress, a house servant, a cook. So you can see from these policies that you can do genealogical research. So let's just say hypothetically, Mary stayed with Martha until slavery ended. She would have probably stayed in Richmond because a lot of people stayed in the area, even though a lot would leave. And let's just say she didn't get married. So I did some research, and I actually found a Mary Green in the Freedmen's Bureau records with $167 in her account. Or she could have changed her last name. All this to say that this is a great resource to find our ancestors and to put a feather in the hat of the information that we don't have. So I was able to find another one. Let's meet Robert Moody. Hey, Robert, hey. So I did all this research, and then I went online, and the Library of Virginia had already done some research, but it's fine. Mine was a little bit better. So this policy was written in February the 10th, 1847, for 1 year. Robert is different as he actually has a last name. He was in Chesterfield, and the Moody's were prominent in Chesterfield, Virginia, back in the 1850s. And at a quick glance, there was no rate sheet readily available for me to look up Robert's true age, but he's between 25 and 30 years of age. He has provisions in his insurance to say basically he can work at Clover Hill. Clover Hill is actually a coal mine area in Chesterfield County. Well, it's not now, but it's a suburb of Richmond, Virginia. This is a Nautilus life insurance policy, which is the precursor to New York Life. And I am unsure if they changed their rates for dangerous activity, but the Library of Virginia actually has this policy in their encyclopedia. And I was fortunate to touch this and do a little bit more research on the policy. But the Library of Virginia says that in 1847, James H. Moody of Chesterfield County took out this life insurance policy from Nautilus, which is New York Life, to cover Robert Moody, his enslaved laborer. Moody was being hired out to work at the Clover Hills pits, a local coal mine. 1 year premium cost $5.81. The policy specifically excluded the following forms of death from its coverage: drowning at sea, suicide, dying as a result of duels, or for having violated any laws. For the policy to remain valid, the company requires that the policyholder obtain permission in advance for the slaves to pass beyond the settled limits of the United States, except for a few populated regions in Canada, or to travel beyond the southern borders of Virginia or Kentucky between July 1 and November 1, or to enter into the military or naval services. So using these policies, you can assist in your work, in your genealogical work. So I'm coming to an end. I'm sorry, I have about 50 more slides to go. No, I'm kidding. I'm coming to an end. So by the 1850s, companies in the South were clamoring to open agencies. So that's the other funny part. So you had all of these northern companies opening up. Well, they already had life insurance companies open. And the southern folks were like, we need to get into the game too. And so they were opening up these mutual companies. I always say white folks were appointing their families to be the agents. So like for me, I had to take exams and study, but back then everything was just full regalia. You could do whatever. So everybody was making money off of this. This is insane to me. There were more fire insurance companies, and we call those now P&C companies, property and casualty companies, that were getting into the game as well. They were all making money off the backs of us. None of our families were paid, and even free blacks, they had this in their the annual report in one of the companies. free blacks couldn't get life insurance. They said they weren't worthy enough. As were as far as Michigan. Here are a few that I was able to gather. As you can see, the competition was fierce. Kentucky Mutual Life Insurance states lives insured on mutual plans and their slave rates were 3/4 the value. So they started to compete against each other. Some were a half, some were 2/3. This Kentucky Mutual was 3/4, but they didn't have insurance. Kentucky Mutual didn't have insurance for the slave trader. But as you can see, there's the Albemarle Insurance Company of Virginia, Lynchburg Hose and Fire Insurance Company. It's just a lot. Here we have Hartford, Aetna, Springfield Fire, City Fire Insurance Company of Hartford, Atlantic Fire and Marine Insurance Company of Providence, Rhode Island. So it goes on and on and on. So I'm going backwards. So by the 1860s, the industry made the most money and lost the most money. This makes me smile because at some point this had to stop. By the 1860s, the lives of the slaves was quoted from someone, an officer in New York, North Carolina Mutual, that the slave insurance has become quite an important feature in the transactions of many companies. The greed became so remarkable that the death benefit went from $550 back in the 1940s to $800 in the 1860s. Just a side note here, white insured themselves for about 4 to 5 times more than this. So you had to, it's all about the numbers. So the more slave insurance policies that you would get, the more deaths you might have, the more money you'll make. At first, the death claims were low and the money was coming into the companies. Then the claims started to come in on slaves and the company started to look at the numbers and question the medical examiners. So as the mortgage industry started questioning the underwriters, the insurance companies started to question the medical examiners. And I don't have this in here, but I do want to say that the medical examiners were not being paid to do this. But they were being paid at some point. Now, you can't tell me if they weren't. They weren't being paid, but what they said, the insurance companies came together, they said, well, since they're not being paid, they're doing subpar work. So let's pay them a little bit so that they can make sure that the enslaved are healthy. So they started getting paid after a while. Too many people were getting slave policies. And then actually after the Civil War, people started to die, white and black, and the companies could not keep up with the claims. And so a lot of the companies went bankrupt. I wrote something down here now. So I'm going to read this. It states that in an article written by Todd Savant in 1977, he wrote, during the existence of North Carolina Mutual, they had insured over 4,700 slave lives and had paid over $176,000 in compensation for the deaths of 265 slaves. In today's numbers, that number would have been $3,128,035, which averages up to be about $119,000 per life of an enslaved person. He also stated that until the outbreak of the hostilities of the war, that the insurance companies provided financial support for the South's peculiar institution. So with all that being said, we know that slave life insurance was not a good thing. We know that when we see African Americans now, when it comes to the wealth gap, it's huge. There are huge impacts of slavery in our community. So I've touched upon the financial impacts of slavery and that still affects our community, like the economy, health, education, social justice, and civic engagement. And I have also touched on a major impact that created the insurance industry today. I would be remiss as a financial advisor not to use this platform to talk to my people about what the essentials that are needed for our community. My last prayer is that what I have said today will help you with 3 areas that you can utilize when you leave here to increase your generational wealth now and for your children and your grandchildren and beyond. There are 3 things that I want you to take away today. So, I talked about slave life insurance. This is what I'm saying when you can turn lemons into lemonade. So there are names in these life insurance policies. And we can utilize the life insurance policies to start looking for some of our ancestors that are lost, that we think that the brick wall. It's a brick wall. So we can use this as a help to move us to the next level. I saw where someone used a life insurance policy, found a life insurance policy through a will, and then they were able to find out what their ancestor actually did. And so we can use this knowledge in order to move us forward. The second thing is the wills, and the third is life insurance. All right, so I think I went over the genealogical piece. Use slave life insurance policies to enhance your genealogical research. Get a will, get a will, get a will. Now, the state has a will for you, but you want the state to divvy out your will? You don't. So even if you take a sheet of paper, write out what you want, and get it notarized, it is valid. So go out and, like, if you don't want Aunt Janie to get that sofa, or you want cousin Beatrice to make sure that she pays the house, you got to put it in a will, because what you say does not transfer to death. What you write transfers. As you can see, that all of these wills that you see from the 1619 to now, and all of the white communities, have been valid. And so they have passed down their generational wealth, and we're still kind of trying to get there. So I'm here to say, get a will, protect your assets. The other piece to it is, and the last thing that I'm going to say is get life insurance. So I can say this story because I just heard it a few days ago. I talked to someone, and she said that she didn't want to get life insurance because her mother had been duped out of an insurance company, her grandmother had been duped out of an insurance company, and she just did not believe in life insurance. And so she was going to get burial insurance. And I always say, if you get some insurance, at least you have something. But when you know better, you can do better. So what I was articulating to her is that I do understand burial insurance, and it helps to bury, but it does not leave a legacy for our family. And so a lot of people will go out and get $10,000, $20,000 for their families, and it's good, but there's still a debt, a mortgage, there's still a car payment. So do what the white folks do. Get $1 million policy, even if you don't have any kids. Get it. Give it to somebody. Give it to any organization. There are different ways that you can pass down generational wealth. And so with that, I am going to close. I know that I talked a lot today, but I want to thank you for allowing me to be up here today to give you a little bit of information about what I am passionate about. My name is Michelle Oliver. I am a financial historian, and good night. Thank you, Michelle.
plenty of notes. Excellent presentation. Now we come to the presentation of our 2022 Phyllis Wheatley Book Awards. The organization gives this award to books that help tell our unique story. These books refer to enslaved people as human beings and not as singular objects of study. They tell stories that acknowledge and uplift their humanity. They help us understand the history and implications of American slavery. We are pleased to give the Phyllis Wheatley Awards to these 6 fantastic books.
The Phyllis Wheatley Book Award is given to books which cover the topic of American slavery and published within the past 5 years. Books awarded for this year are from the following nonfiction categories: historical, genealogical research, historical biography, historical academic, historical event, and children. The Phyllis Wheatley Book Award winners for 2022 are: for historical, She Took Justice, The Black Woman, Law, and Power, 1619 to 1969, written by Gloria J. Brown Marshall. For genealogical research, Gordvine, Black and White, Slavery and the Kilby Families of the Virginia Piedmont, written by Timothy Kilby. For historical biography, Women of Color Made a Difference in the Era of the Revolutionary War, The Birth of Black America, written by Dr. Marion T. Lane. For biography, Antoine of Oak Alley, The Unlikely Origin of Southern Pecans and the Enslaved Man Who Cultivated Them, written by Katie Morlis Shannon. For historical academic, Chained to History, Slavery and U.S. Foreign Relations to 1865, written by Stephen J. Brady. For historical event, The 1619 Project, created by Nicole Hannah Jones. And for children, The 1619 Project, Born on the Water, written by Nicole Hannah Jones and Renee Watson, illustrated by Nicholas Smith. Congratulations to all of the 2022 award winners.
Congratulations to our book awardees. Next, we move on to another highlight of our event, our service awards, and Evelyn is coming right now. One moment.
No, yes, we want to give an opportunity for the book awardees, if you're present, to come on and have a minute or two. We do have one here with us, so I'm going to just ask her to come up. And one of the book award winners is Dr. Marion T. Lane. So come on up and get your award.
Women of Color Made a Difference in the Era of the Revolutionary War. I cover 12 women. I start with Queen Charlotte on the front, and she was a woman of color. And I end with Phyllis Wheatley.
And now we have Gloria Brown Marshall, who's here. And you can't see it, but here's your award. Everyone give her a round of applause. Thank you. Do you have any other ones that are on the call? Timothy Kirby. Timothy Kirby. You can't see it, but here's your award. Everyone give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. And, oh, okay, we have Dr. Stephen Brady. This award, we'll be mailing it out to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then we want, is there anyone else on the call? Hey, yes, there is the illustrator. There he is.
Hello. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Here's your award. Oh, you can speak? Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead. You can, I didn't know if anyone
Oh
wanted
yeah, I
to.
was just saying thank you for the award. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of myself, Nicole, and Renee.
Thank you. It was a great book.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
May I allow one thing, because we weren't unmuted before.
Oh, okay.
This is Gloria Brown Marshall. I just want to lift up my enslaved ancestor, Eliza Bradshaw from Kentucky, and to say thank you. She took Justice Begins with Queen Nzinga in Africa and goes forward mentioning women who were part of our legal system who fought unjust laws based on race and gender. And from that perseverance you talked about earlier is so evident. I thank you, and I thank all of the people here for being a part of this great event and this wonderful organization.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Johnny Ramsey Brown, and I'm the board treasurer and charter member of the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage. It gives me great pleasure to recognize and honor the work of these individuals. Our first award is our Special Recognition Award. This award goes to individuals who are singularly focused on a particular project related to the remembrance or the history of people who were enslaved in our country. This award goes to Hollis Gentry, genealogist for the Smithsonian.
Ms. Hollis Gentry is a genealogy specialist at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture Library. She provides genealogical and historical reference services, develops and implements genealogy instruction, programs, and presentations, and serves as a genealogy consultant on the National Museum of African American History and Culture special projects. Ms. Gentry says that working at the museum is the realization of a dream she's had for more than 2 decades, to provide reference assistance to staff, scholars, and the public on subjects related to African American history, culture, and genealogy. She loves research and enjoys helping other researchers find the information they seek. She also enjoys being amongst colleagues who have a passion for their work, learning from them and with them, and enjoying the numerous opportunities for professional and personal development that are available at the Smithsonian. For her work in helping others find the stories of enslaved people and their descendants, it is an honor to present the Certificate of Special Recognition to Ms. Hollis Gentry.
Good evening, everyone. I am LaBrenda Garrett Nelson. I am the Registrar General of the Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage, and I have the honor of presenting the award, the Elijah Abel Service Award. It is an award named for Elijah Abel, a formerly enslaved man who rose to become the first African American to assume a leadership position in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this award goes to Tony Carrier.
Ms. Tony Carrier is the director of the Center for Family History at the International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. She has been a consultant to the museum since 2015. Prior to joining the museum, she was the founding director of Low Country Africana, a nonprofit research project and free website dedicated to the African American genealogy in the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. Ms. Carrier is the founder of the University of South Florida's Africana Heritage Project and co-founder of the website Mapping the Freedmen's Bureau, an interactive online finding aid. She has served as a panelist on the Black ProGen Live internet broadcast since 2016 and is a regular speaker at national genealogy conferences. In the 20 years she has been working in and teaching African American genealogy in the Lowcountry, Ms. Carrier conducted research for the PBS series African American Lives 2, researched the history of the Point of Pine slave dwelling on behalf of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and traced Michelle Obama's ancestry on behalf of the Obama for America campaign. In 2012, Ms. Carrier was the Wood Family Fellow and Cherise R. Cecil intern at Drayton Hall Plantation, where she conducted research on the post-emancipation African American community at Drayton Hall. Ms. Carrier has conducted research for Michael Twitty's book, The Cooking Gene, and is currently conducting genealogy research for Dr. Etta Fields Black's forthcoming book, Combee, Harriet Tubman, the Combee River Raid, and the Gullah Geechee Transformation. For her work in helping others discover the history of slavery through genealogy and founding organizations that aid in genealogical research, we are honored to present the Elijah Abel Service Award to Ms. Toni Carrier.
Congratulations to Toni.
Friends, I'm truly humbled and profoundly grateful to be the recipient of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage Lineage Society's Elijah Abel Service Award. I am humbled by this honor and grateful to the board of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. I also sit in awe of those whose company I share today accepting awards. I'm deeply grateful to the genealogy family that has welcomed me with open arms all these years. When I began this work 20 years ago as a strange white girl who for some odd reason could also hear the voices of the ancestors who were forced from Africa during the Middle Passage. The same ancestors that nudge us up out of bed every morning because their stories aren't going to find and tell themselves. The ancestors who come to us in dreams, the ancestors who come to us as a tap on our shoulder when we're supposed to find something today. They come down to us because they want to be found. They want their stories to be told. The Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage Lineage Society has done so much to honor and uplift the voices and the memory of these ancestors who survived the Middle Passage, the institution of slavery, and found a way to make a way. May we always be able to hear their voices, and may we inspire the next generation to be able to hear them as well. Dear friends, colleagues, thank you so much for this honor. I'm truly grateful.
Good evening. My name is Marjorie Fort-Dees, and I am a charter member of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage and the owner of BSR Travel Agency. I have the honor of presenting the next award, the Solomon Northup Family Service Award. This award is named for Solomon Northup, a man who was born free, but was kidnapped and sold into slavery. Many know of him from the feature film based on his memoir titled 12 Years a Slave. And a New Yorker, it is said Solomon Northup survived his many years of enslavement in New Orleans by focusing on being reunited with his wife and children. With the aid of the governor of New York, Solomon Northup regained his freedom in 1853. He went on to lecture on behalf of the abolitionist movement, giving speeches throughout the Northeast about his experiences. And today in Saratoga Springs, New York, you will find a historical marker at the corner of Congress and Broadway to commemorate Northup's life. So tonight, the 2022 Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage Solomon Northup Family Service Award goes to Carice Luck Brimmer, genealogist, tour guide, and owner of Our History Matters Heritage Tours. Congratulations.
Ms. Carice Luck Brimmer is an independent public historian and genealogist with over 20 years of genealogical researching experience. She started Our History Matters, an organization that works to bring awareness, acknowledgement, and appreciation for African American life and historic preservation in order to build more inclusive communities, with a mission to showcase the omitted histories of the people and sacred spaces of African Americans in the Dan River region through genealogy and tourism. She was the founding president of the Danville, Pittsylvania County chapter of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society. In 2019, she was appointed by former Virginia Governor Ralph Northam to serve on the Virginia Board of Historic Resources. One of her current projects includes the development of the Danville Research Center for African American History and Culture. Ms. Luck Brimmer's goal is to expose locals and the greater public to the contributions made by African Americans in their regions. She makes this happen by interviewing and collecting the oral histories of the people who lived through historic moments. She was recently featured on 60 Minutes, having provided genealogical research proving that a house, Sharswood, purchased by Mr. Fred Miller in order to have a place for the Miller family gatherings, was, in fact, the actual house that the Miller family ancestors were enslaved. For her work in building more inclusive communities and for helping families connect to their ancestors, we are honored to present the Solomon Northup Family Award to Ms. Carice Luck Brimmer.
Good evening again. Well, as you know, my name is Ruth D. Hunt, and I have the esteemed honor to introduce and present the next award. The award is named for Frederick Douglass, the former enslaved, self-liberated abolitionist, statesman, orator, and writer. The award The award is called the Frederick Douglass Leadership Award, which is one of the highest awards and is given to an awardee with an unyielding dedication to the memory of our ancestors. This year, the award goes to my friend, Cheryl Wills, Emmy-winning TV anchor and author.
Ms. Cheryl Wills, an Emmy Award-winning journalist for Spectrum News New York 1, was the first African-American woman to host a prime-time nightly newscast for the cable network. She anchors the Emmy-nominated broadcast Live at 10 weeknights. She is also the talk show host of the weekly public affairs program In Focus with Cheryl Wills, where she interviews the most powerful newsmakers and celebrities in the country. Ms. Wills is also the acclaimed author of a series of books about her family's transition from slavery to freedom in the United States. Die Free, A Heroic Family Tale, The Emancipation of Grandpa Sandy Wills, Emancipated, My Family's Fight for Freedom, and Emma all chronicle her 3 times great-grandfather's heroic service as a member of the United States Colored Troops during the Civil War. In 2011, Ms. Wills made history as the first journalist invited to speak at the United Nations General Assembly Hall for the International Remembrance of Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, which was broadcast live around the world on UN TV. Ms. Wills has been honored numerous times during her 30-plus year broadcasting career, but is most proud to be the commander and lifetime descendant member of the New York chapter of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Colored Troops, a national organization of Civil War descendants who raise awareness about the 200,000 Black soldiers who bravely served during the Civil War. For her tireless and fearless advocacy for the education of children and young adults, and for uplifting the lives of enslaved and newly freed African Americans, we are honored to present the Frederick Douglass Leadership Award to Ms. Cheryl Wills.
She's doing great things. We can look for big things coming from her. Oprah is looking at her story, which is a fascinating story in 60 minutes. So we can look forward to that. And she just wrote another book about the history of gospel singers, and it's phenomenal.
Good evening. My name is Abbasi Anaton. I am a founding board member of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. I'm happy to present the next award. It is named after Ida B. Wells, a formerly enslaved journalist and activist who was known for calling attention to the violence experienced by African Americans in the South. It is called the Ida B. Wells Service Award, and the 2022 awardee is Frederick Deshawn.
Mr. Frederick Murphy is the founder of History Before Us, LLC, a project centered on capturing, preserving, and advocating for influential history. Mr. Murphy understands the importance of history to our collective humanity and is committed to collecting and preserving it. His first film, the award-winning The American South as We Know It, explores the lives of survivors of Jim Crow, the courageous individuals who didn't make the headlines. His second documentary, The Other Side of the Coin, Race, Generations, and Reconciliation, was released in 2020. A collection of experiences and thoughts addressing the complexities of race in America, the film asks, how do we reconcile for the sake of future generations and humanity? Mr. Murphy's third documentary, Sweet Home Alabama, A Chief and His Protege, was released in 2021. This film explores the parallels between survival, perseverance, and unapologetic preservation. He has also directed educational films in collaboration with the North Carolina Rice Festival, Black Indians NC, Saving Slave Houses, A1 Day One Productions, Brunswick Arts Council, and more. For his dedication to preserving these valuable stories for future generations, and his commitment to making sure that the masses have insight into historical events with the firm belief historical knowledge provides a background for making solid decisions in the future, we are honored to award the Ida B. Wells Leadership Award to Mr. Frederick Murphy.
Join me in congratulating Frederick.
What's up, everybody? My name is Frederick Murphy, and I am greatly appreciative of this award. It came completely out of left field. You know, we get into doing the work that we do because we understood the assignment by the ancestors of keeping their legacy alive, as well as creating new legacies, speaking to the masses about their truth. Regardless of what other individuals may think or their ideologies, we know what our mission is, and we do a very good job of completing those missions. So I just want to give a big shout out to everybody that's doing the work. And, you know, I would love to have been there right now, but I am going to be in a wedding in Mexico at the time that you're watching this. So I couldn't tell my homeboy, yo, got to go to New Jersey over Mexico. No offense, New Jersey, because I've never been to the States, so I would love to come there, and I will. But that's where I'm at, so unfortunately I couldn't be there, but I greatly appreciate this award. Thank you. Peace.
I'm Gigi Best Richardson, and I am a charter member with the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage, and I'm a past vice president. And I love this organization because of all that they do to help us honor our enslaved ancestors. And so I want to congratulate Miss Regina Vaughn for all the work that she does for this Harriet Tubman Award, because many people might not know that Harriet Tubman was actually hit in the head. She was beat as a child, mistreated so many ways, but she made 13 missions, and at least 70 people she helped free. So without further ado, I'd like to congratulate Regina Vaughn.
Ms. Regina Vaughn is the second generation member of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Philadelphia Heritage Branch. She has served as a president from 2011 to 2022. Her lifelong study of African American history began in high school when she took part in a citywide student protest demanding Black studies be included in the school curriculum. She received several awards for her research on the Underground Railroad and for documenting the lives of African Americans living in the Frankfort section of colonial Philadelphia. As president of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History Philadelphia Heritage Branch for the past 10 years, Ms. Vaughn has a branch focused on having a greater reach into the community. The Philadelphia Heritage Branch seeks to intertwine the historic with current social history. Ms. Vaughn is a member of several genealogical organizations. For her dedication to the study of African American history and her research in documenting African American life in this country, we are honored to award the Harriet Tubman Leadership Award to Ms. Regina Vaughn.
Congratulations. Regina Vaughn is with us today. I'm going to give her this award, and we'll like to hear from you at this point.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank my DNA cousin, Gigi Bess Richardson, Dr. McDowell, and the sons and daughters of the United States Middle Passage Board and charter members for this great honor. Most of all, I thank my late mother, Othello Habibi Vaughn, who started on this journey 40 years ago to find her people. I say their names: Millie Floyd Tribble, Hampton Tribble, and Lewis Glenn, enslaved in Newberry County, South Carolina. They survived, so 8 generations later, we're thriving. In the spirit and service of Harriet Tubman, may the work I've done speak for me. May the service I've given speak for me. May the life I live and continue to live speak for me. Asante Sanze. Thank you again.
Our next award, Harriet Tubman Leadership Award, goes to Dion Patterson for your tireless efforts to up the memory of enslaved people and stories, including your work as CEO and founder of UGR 3-Day Underground Railroad Experiences, Inc., and as an acclaimed storyteller. Congratulations, Dion Patterson.
A nationally certified cultural interpretive guide and education consultant, curriculum developer, conference speaker, historian, and acclaimed storyteller, Ms. Dion Patterson, also known as Conductor D, is the CEO and founder of UGR 3-Day Underground Railroad Experiences Incorporated. Playing the role of conductor, she brings her research-based narratives, poetic storytelling, and creative energy to each UGR 3-Day experience. What began as a sisterhood weekend over the course of 3 days where 11 friends walked 52 miles through Delaware and Pennsylvania, led by Conductor D, quickly expanded to underground routes ranging from Bucks County, Pennsylvania to virtual and cycling journeys. One of the aspects that makes the experiences unique are the special touches added by Conductor D to bring the stories to life. She tells the stories in a way that makes you feel you were personally introduced to the person. The mission of UGR 3-Day Underground Railroad Experiences is to share empowering stories from the underground. The UGR experiences are designed to immerse the participant into the pages of history. Through creative storytelling and memorable keepsakes, the routes that freedom seekers took are retraced in a powerful way. The signature UGR treats are part of the storytelling, which brings tangibility and connection to these empowering, sometimes harrowing tales. For her passion for helping others understand the history and courage of enslaved people in their quest for freedom,
and for bringing to life the stories of those individuals who risked their lives to be free, we are honored to present the Harriet Tubman Leadership Award to Ms. Dion Patterson.
With us today, and I feel honored and blessed, and I'm so proud of you. She is a woman who, she can make a list, the next thing you know, she's acting on that list, and you deserve this. Congratulations, and keep doing what you're doing. The ancestors are proud you're making them smile.
Good evening. Thank you to the sons and daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage for honoring the journey of our ancestors and creating a space for our stories to be told. I'd like to thank my ancestors for their perseverance, our God for his grace, their strength and their faith, for taking life or death chances as they escaped from cruel enslavers, believing and knowing that their breath, their hands, their footsteps, their skills and creativity were not designed for a man to capitalize on them. They knew their worth and they rose. They found root cellars and crawl spaces to hide in. They tucked themselves behind boilers or in ships. They burrowed in swamps and marshes and rode down rivers to freedom. Our people walked barefoot through icy snow, sharp thorns, snake-laden forests with dogs and manhunters on their trail. I'm honored to tell their stories. And I'm so grateful that the commitment to sharing their truth is recognized through this beautiful award. Thank you.
My name is Judge Anita Laster Mays, and I am currently the board secretary and a charter member of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. Last but certainly not least, one of our highest service awards is named for Crispus Attucks, one of the first people to give their lives for the independence of this country. The award is given to two individuals who courageously created and led one of the boldest steps to achieving some measure of justice for our ancestors whose freedom and liberty was stolen, and for their descendants who continue to fight injustice. This year's award goes to Attorney Camila Moore and the Honorable Dr. Shirley Weber. Congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Ms. Camilla Moore is a repertory justice scholar and an attorney with a specialization in entertainment and intellectual property transactions. As a law student, she contributed to human rights reports related to domestic and international human rights issues, including, but not limited to, racial inequality in Brazil, the human right to sanitation in Lowndes County, Alabama, and a human right to remedy for indigenous Black women affected by racialized gender violence in Papua New Guinea. While studying abroad at the University of Amsterdam, Ms. Moore wrote a master thesis exploring the intersections between international law and repertory justice for the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, and their legacies. In 2021, Ms. Moore was appointed to the California Reparations Task Force by Speaker of the Assembly Anthony Rendon and ultimately was elected chair. The responsibility of the task force is to study the lingering effects of slavery and recommending to the state legislature how Black Americans might be compensated. As chair, her aim is to use her knowledge of domestic and international human rights to help guide the reparations push for African American descendants of enslaved people who live in California and, perhaps, across the country. The great-granddaughter, granddaughter, and daughter of Black sharecroppers, Dr. Shirley Nash Weber was sworn in to serve as California's Secretary of State by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021. She is California's first Black Secretary of State and only the 5th African American to serve as a state constitutional officer in California's 170-year history. While serving in the California State Assembly, Dr. Weber authored Assembly Bill 3121, which established a task force to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. Assembly Bill 3121 charges the Reparations Task Force with studying the institution of slavery and its lingering negative effects on living African Americans, including descendants of persons enslaved in the United States, and on society. Additionally, the task force will recommend appropriate remedies of compensation, rehabilitation, and restitution for African Americans. Dr. Weber says, "This task force brings together experts who understand how we, as Californians, are still affected by slavery and its successors in our own state, including redlining, theft of labor, wealth and capital, over-incarceration, over-policing, and systemic discrimination. The aim of the task force is to heal the injustices of the past and present with tangible action and to set a course for a better future for African Americans in the state." The task force has published a nearly 500-page interim report that details a history of discrimination against African Americans from colonial times to the present day. For leading the effort to make major changes in the recognition of enslaved people and their descendants, and for their work and leadership in creating and leading the task force to study reparations in the state of California, we are honored to present the Crispus Attucks Leadership Award to Ms. Camilla Moore and Dr. Shirley Weber.
Hello. Hi, my name is Camila Moore, and I'm the chairperson of the California Reparations Task Force. Thank you again for this award. I'm overwhelmed with emotion. You know, it's not lost on me that I'm sharing this award with an amazing leader and an inspiration, Secretary Shirley Weber, for which this task force would not exist without her leadership. And it's also not lost on me that, you know, we're awarded under the name of Crispus Attucks, who, as was noted, was one of the first, right, people to fight for real and true freedom in this country. And he was a pioneer for freedom. And I see Secretary Weber and the work we're doing with the California Reparations Task Force as a true pioneering effort in the spirit of Crispus Attucks to finally achieve what our ancestors fought for, which was reparations. So thank you all so much.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Pat McDowell, and I am a charter member of the Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage. And I have the honor of presenting the Denmark Vesey Award. This award is given to an individual for their unwavering dedication to helping other African Americans connect to their ancestors. This year, the award goes to Ms. Robin Smith.
An engineer by day, Ms. Robin N. Smith applies those research and problem-solving skills to the field of genealogy. Ms. Smith has lectured widely at genealogical conferences and institutions and has published numerous articles about her family history, including articles on her Maryland roots in a peer-reviewed Maryland Genealogical Society journal. She won second place in the 2015 International Society of Family History Writers and Editors Writing Competition for her article, Minty's Legacy, A Black Family in Slavery and Freedom. For more than 12 years, she has authored a popular genealogy teaching blog called Reclaiming Kin. Her blog focuses on growing genealogical research skills for all genealogists and the unique challenges of researching the enslaved. Her work has been referenced in several publications, including the Washington Post and the New York Times. In 2020, in the backdrop of the COVID pandemic, Ms. Smith launched Zoom webinars directly from her Reclaiming Kin website. They continue to prove hugely popular and regularly draw large audiences eager to learn from her expertise. In 2021, her first lecture for Legacy Family Tree webinars, Do You Have an Artificial Brick Wall?, garnered thousands of views and remained in the top 5 most watched webinars for several months. For her leadership in the field of genealogy through her researching, teaching, and publishing, we are honored to present the Denmark VC Leadership Award to Ms. Robin Smith.
Thank you so much, Dr. McDowell and Sons and Daughters of the U.S. Middle Passage for this quite unexpected award. It has been my absolute pleasure to share with you all what I've learned for more than a decade at Reclaiming Kin. And to be recognized for doing something that you love is very gratifying. I've made so many cherished friendships and had so many good times over the years in genealogy. But besides all of the discoveries I've made, uncovering the names of my enslaved ancestors has been the most soul satisfying. I truly believe that we are bearing witness to a people who could not do that for themselves. This is spiritual work that we're doing, this research, vitally important, not just for our family's history, but for recovering the story of America. We're putting chapters back into a book from which they were torn whenever we tell the stories of our enslaved ancestors and the communities that they built. Our ancestors lived, died, worked, played, prayed, cried, laughed, rebelled, and loved. And although they were enslaved, they were never conquered. So while we remember their pain, let's also remember all of the ways that they created joy in the very small spaces that they had. That's the victory. Enslavers could never crush their humanity. Thank you again for this award, and thank you for all good work that you're doing.
So this is not on my outline, but I just feel a need to express the sentiment, which I'm sure most of us feel. Dr. Evelyn McDowell, and to your family, Dr. Evelyn McDowell, and to your family, thank you for providing an authentic space for us to honor our enslaved ancestors. Your work does not go unnoticed, and we know that you work really, really hard to ensure that we have an opportunity to share. And thank you so much for that. We're all grateful for that. So I couldn't let tonight go without acknowledging you. Thank you. And your family. And your family. This concludes our awards presentation. I would like to thank tonight's presenters. A special thanks and congratulations go to all of the awardees and honorees, including their family and friends. Immediately following this event is the networking session. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. starts our annual conference. We hope to see you there. On behalf of all of the members of Sons and Daughters of the United States Middle Passage, if you are eligible to join the organization, we invite you to join us, and we thank you all for being with us. Good night.